Hey everyone, welcome back. This is Casey from GravityKit, and this is the third part of the GravityView Quick Start guide. So in this video, we're going to be creating a form and a view. So let's get started. I'm going to hover over Forms here, and I'm going to click New Form. And now Gravity Forms gives us the option to start with a form template. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'm going to select the webinar registration form. So I'll select Use Template, and now I need to give it a name. There we go, and as you can see, this form is already built out for us, and here we are inside the Gravity Forms editor. So we've got all the fields here, which is really nice. And we can go ahead and save that, and then we can preview the form. And here's what it looks like on the front end. So it's got some fields for people to register for webinars, like name, email address, company website, even a job title, and a space to ask questions. So this form will work really nicely for capturing webinar registrations. Now what we can do is create a view to actually display and manage these registrations on the front end. Okay, so back into my WordPress dashboard. What I'm going to go ahead and do is quickly fill out this form with some dummy entries, and then we'll get started creating the view. Okay, so here I am on the Gravity Forms entries screen. As you can see, I've added a bunch of new webinar registrations here to my form. So we got a whole load of entries that have come in here. And now I'm going to create a view so we can see and manage these entries on the front end. So to do that, I'm going to hover over GravityKit here and click New View. And now I can give my view a name. And the next step is to select a data source. So the data source is essentially a form in Gravity Forms, which houses the data that we want to display on the front end. So in this example, I'm going to go ahead and select my webinar registrations. That's the form we just created. And now the next step is to choose a view type. So Gravity View supports a number of different view types, which are helpful for creating different types of applications. And the type of view type you select will really depend on what you're trying to build and the type of layout that you want for your data. The GravityView Core plugin comes with 3 view types: table type, the list type, and the layout builder. The layout builder is a little bit more powerful as it really allows you to customize things by building layouts with rows and columns. It works more like a page builder, but we'll go through this more in depth in future courses. And GravityView Pro has additional layouts including data tables, maps, and also DIY. These are slightly more advanced layouts. They have additional functionality, and you can do some really powerful stuff. But we do go through all of these in another course, so if you are interested in learning more about the different view types and layouts, do check that out. For now, I'm going to go ahead and select the table layout. Okay, here we are inside the GravityView editor. And if I scroll down here, you can see that GravityView has already added some stuff in here for us automatically. And I'm going to talk a bit about that in a second, but first let me give you an overview of how the editor works. So at the top here, you'll notice we have 3 tabs: the multiple entries layout, the single entry layout, and the edit entry layout. We're going to actually dive into these in depth in the next video, but just be aware of those for now. And of course, we are by default on the multiple entries layout, and this essentially is the page which lists all of our entries one after the other. So if you were to think of that as a directory, it would be like the main directory listing page. The single entry layout would be a page where you could view more information about one specific entry, and then the edit entry layout actually allows admins and users to update information directly from the front end. And all of these are configurable. But again, we'll dive into this in the next video. For now, let's take a look at the view editor. We have a top widgets area where we can add different widgets for navigating a view, like a search bar. We got pagination info here, page links. And then scrolling down, we have the entries field section. This is the actual data that we're displaying in our view, and this is coming directly from our form entries. So you can see we've got some of the field values here already, like first name, last name, industry type, position / job title, and company website. To add additional data here, we can just click on this button, and that opens a field picker where we can select field values from our form to display here. And there are also some custom fields that GravityView supports. Okay, and then of course everything is drag and drop, so you can change the order of things as well. Because we're using the table layout, each of these fields will be a separate column in our table. All right, and then finally the bottom widgets area. Here, again, you can add some widgets to your view, and those will display below the actual data. And then finally, we have the view settings, and there are a lot of different configuration options here for changing the kind of functionality of your view. You can filter, you can sort, you can enable certain options. But again, we're going to go through all of this in depth in the next video. So for now, I just want to draw your attention to this checkbox, Show Only Approved Entries. That is checked automatically because GravityView has a built-in entry approval system where you can choose to approve entries before they show up in a view. And that's quite nice if you're running a directory, for example, and you don't just want people to be able to get a listing. You want to actually approve the listing before it shows up on the front end. But for this example, I'm going to go ahead and uncheck that so that our entries do display. And that's about it. So let's update the view. And then let's check it out on the front end. So here we go. Here is our view. And as you can see, we've got this very simple search bar at the top, which hasn't been configured yet, but we'll do that in the next video. And then we have our table here, which is essentially pulling from Gravity Forms and showing all of our form entries, all of our webinar registrations. And GravityView has also added this link automatically for us on the first name. And if we click that, it takes us through to the single entry page where we can view that individual entry. And that's displaying all the fields for that entry, so we can see a little bit of extra information. And then GravityView has also added this edit entry link for us automatically. And if we click on that, it takes us through to an edit entry screen. And because we're an admin, we can go ahead and actually update this form entry directly from the front end. GravityView also has an option to allow users to edit, and that means users can actually update their own entries directly from the front end as well. Of course, they will have to be logged in to do that. Okay, so in this video, we created a form and a view, and we very quickly went through the view editor, and we looked at how GravityView displays the data on the front end. In the next video, we're going to dive into the view editor and go through all of the options a little bit more in depth.